All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are in day 11. We're officially past the 50% or 50% of the 21 days program as of today. For all of you that have joined live via Zoom, that's awesome. For those of you who are on Facebook Live, welcome. If you have any questions like before, please put it on the chat. I am monitoring the chat in both the Facebook Live as well as on the Zoom. I'm just a little stumbling because I'm getting the chat ready. I've forgotten to put that out. But in both cases, I will be monitoring the chat. Yesterday, we talked about stress and the impacts of stress and how stress has an impact on our thoughts and how our thoughts have a consequence of what we are looking as an opportunity or a setback, and how the stress actually contributes to our continuous setback. So we want to now look at what can we do to eliminate some of the stress, because we have gone through some of the steps of how we do and control our stress, and that not all stress is bad. There is some good stress. So if we are looking at stress, one, what is causing that stress? And a lot of times what causes us stress is because of how we are perceiving something, how we're looking at something. And the way we look at something sometimes is determined by our previous experiences. And those previous experiences don't always have to be what is on our conscious level. It could be our subconscious level. So today we're going to talk about the power of the subconscious mind. But before we do that, as we have done on a regular basis, is we really need to understand the definition. We need to understand what we're talking about when it comes to conscious, subconscious, and certainly we're going to also address unconscious for just a few seconds. So having said that, let's move forward. So when we look at the word conscious, conscious really defines our thoughts, actions, and awareness. So it is what we're doing when we are aware. And that's why we say conscious. We're aware of what we're doing. The conscious mind is responsible of our logical, our rational, and our intellectual process, right? The conscious mind is known to be responsible for one's awareness about an incident at a present time, which includes our mental functions, our external happenings. For example, a person can concentrate on the wind blowing, or the noise or the music that's playing, because that's how it is. We also can become conscious of our breathing. On the other hand, the actual act of breathing is done at a subconscious level. The subconscious is defined as the reaction and actions we realize when we think of it. So subconscious mind has the control mainly over our physical functions. What do we mean by that? So you don't consciously breathe. You're consciously aware of your breath, but you don't consciously breathe. You don't tell your mind, okay, now it's time to take a breath in and breath out. Unless you're doing yoga, then they actually tell you to sort of breathe in, breathe out. But that's different. On a regular basis, your breathing takes care of it. You look at your blinking of your eyes. You never have to consciously ask your eye to blink. It's ready, it blinks, right? And when we look at all of it, there is over 100,000 cells in our body. How many of it actually do we control? Let me repeat that. There's over 100,000 cells in our body. How many of it do we control? And if one cell is not doing what it's supposed to be, we start seeing that as misalignments in our body and ailments in our body, right? When we look at it, every cell has a function, and that function has to take place. And that is done subconsciously. We don't control all of that, right? So what we actually control at the conscious level is literally very, very limited. Less than 1% is at the conscious level. And even if we were to give the benefit of the doubt, we would say 90% is at the conscious level. Unconscious level, only 10% is at the conscious level, right? 99% of our intelligence actually remembers, archives everything that we know. It knows what is needed. It's all at the subconscious mind. And the graphic that's on the page is like the iceberg. Our conscious and subconscious mind is very much like the iceberg. You see the tip of the iceberg, but that's only a percentage, a fraction of what we can see. The majority of it is below ground, which we don't see. It is the same as a tower, CN Tower, right? It's very similar. I'm just going to admit somebody here. The CN Tower or any other tower, the Seattle Tower, when you look at it, the tower is pretty high up. It's, hundreds of stories high. But they have to build a structure that's below it that's just as strong. Because if that structure below is not strong, then when the wind comes or if there's an earthquake or anything, that building will actually topple. So you need to make sure that your base is just as strong as your top. In the same manner, your subconscious mind, which actually remembers and archives everything that you know, what you need, is underground. What you see at the top and we actually process is only less than 10%. Right? Now, here is the thing that we all have to remember, that these two are actually not distinct. The conscious mind is found to be highly dependent on the subconscious mind. And this is what decides how we function as a human being. What I mean by that is that although the conscious mind is only a fraction of it, it has an interdependence on your subconscious mind. And I will share a statement with you that's going to be really important of how those two function together. But every time we react to something is because there is this ultra fast communication between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, and that's how we react. So when we see something, it can cause fear or love into us, right? We look at two people looking at the same individual will have a totally different response. One will have of fear, one will have of love, right? A lot of people are afraid of snakes. When I look at a snake, I get totally fearful because that's my subconscious mind and my experiences. And yet you have others that are willing to play with it. So our subconscious mind is where we tap into of what our reaction is going to be like. Now, before I go further, I do want to clarify because this is something that comes up quite often. What is the difference between the subconscious and the unconscious? Because we have covered the conscious mind and we have covered the subconscious mind, but then we want to talk about the unconscious mind. And I'm just going to use one slide to cover that so that we do not come back to it. So the subconscious mind is that part of the consciousness that is not in our current focus. The conscious mind is what we're focusing on. The subconscious mind is not in our focus. The unconscious mind consists of the processes in the mind that occur automatically and not available to introspection, and they do not include our thought process, our memory, our effect. And so I would say, when I say that everything that we breathe and stuff like that happens on the subconscious, it actually happens at the unconscious mind. And I didn't want to bring that earlier because we wanted to distinguish the two. So the unconscious mind is, your breathing, your eyelashes, your eyelids, making sure that the eyes don't go dry, your movement of the blood from the heart to the lungs, to the stomach, to the kidneys, to the liver. All of that happens unconsciously. All of your cells are operating actually at that unconscious level. You don't have to tap into it. Now, there is experiences that actually also can be at the unconscious level. And these are ones that we actually cannot access ourselves. They are probably accessed through some psychoanalysts and some behavior specialists. So the unconscious level is above and beyond just the activities that are happening. So subconscious refers to anything that the mind cannot be consciously processed, but it can be recalled. So for instance, you may remember for instance, if we were to close our eyes and go back to, let's say, our high school years, we're not physically living that right now, but we could actually experience exactly how it was for that particular moment in time. So it may be your prom, it may be your high school graduation, it may be one of those things, because that memory is tapped into your subconscious mind and you can recall it if you were to do it. And you could do it by yourself. And that is why trauma and some of these emotions come up. For instance, you will smell something and all of a sudden it will trigger a memory, right? For me, I was born in Africa. And so sometimes when I smell passion fruit, or sometimes I will smell tangerine, or sometimes I will smell something that is very unique to that part of the world, and it will take me back right away. Although I'm not physically going there, it's not a conscious movement, it's not a conscious awareness, it's a subconscious awareness that's brought back into the forward to me. So for that particular moment, I'm conscious of that particular memory. Whereas the unconscious is not something that I could tap into and get myself. Is that clear? Are there any questions on subconscious, conscious, and unconscious? If not, I'm going to ask you guys to do an exercise. So anybody that's online will do it online for just like, let's say, a half a minute. And for those who are not, I suggest that when you're watching this, do it as we're going, because that's going to be important to do. All right. What does the unconscious mean? I don't know what I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what I don't know is correct. Very well said. Yeah. All right. Can you all see a picture on the screen? All right. I want you to take 20 seconds and watch that picture and point out in your conscious mind everything that is the color green. So go through it and see if you can make a mental note of everything that's a shade of green. Not necessarily the light green that you see in the sofa. See every green that you can find in that picture. All right. I am going to take that picture away and actually see if I can stop sharing for a second. All right. Now, what I want you to do is to put in the chat, if you can, everything that you see. Sorry, I want you to put in the chat, or if you're doing this at home, to write down on a separate piece of paper. Tell me everything that you saw that was the color brown or any shade of brown. I'm going to give you just 10 seconds to write down what you're seeing, or if you want to unmute, you can unmute and tell me. You will notice that you've actually discovered stuff that you were not paying attention to. And that is the difference between the focus of going from conscious to unconscious. The unconscious mind actually will, I think am I sharing my screen? Let me share my screen again. And we're going to share this. All right. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
All right. It should be coming up.
Okay.
So Rhonda, what did you see in the color brown?
Well, this is what was so interesting. I don't remember anything except the green. Okay. I don't remember anything.
So close your eyes.
Okay.
And see if you can visualize that picture again and see if you can find brown.
The only thing that I remember is the sort of brownish gold thing near the fireplace.
Yeah. What else?
And outside the window.
Yeah. What else?
That's it.
All right. So this was a literally 10 to 20 second. And yet you were able to find brown stuff around here. And there's the ottoman. That it doesn't matter how many things you saw. The point over here is that when we actually think about it, the subconscious mind is picking up sounds, pictures, words, everything that's there. And this is really, really important because of the next exercises that we're going to go through in this, is that the subconscious mind, like I said, is 90%. It's just not 90% of the memories that it's receiving, but it's also 90% of everything that is picked up in our surrounding. So right now, although you're listening to me, your visual may be just on the screen, but it's actually picking up everything around as well. And so that's really, really important to understand that the subconscious mind actually remembers everything, past trauma, past events. And so when I do the emotion code and the body code, we actually tap into that subconscious mind. And a lot of times, even when we're coaching, the reason why we coach and you're able to get answers is because your subconscious mind already knows that. We just tap and get that out from the individual. So that's really, really important. Now, what's really important, what we talked about earlier, is remember that the conscious mind responds to things, whereas the subconscious mind has the knowledge. And what we want to do is to tap into that knowledge. So between that stimulus and that response is where this wisdom resides. That is where the power to choose resides. And remember, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You always have a choice. The challenge is that we often respond before tapping into our knowledge, and that's why we think our choices are bad. That's why we think we always get setbacks. But if you actually go into the subconscious mind and tap into it and say, what was it that I want to do? What is the choice that I can do? And in that response, then lies our growth and our freedom and that breakage from setback. Right? So how do you use the power of the subconscious mind? And I've got this graphic which sort of looks weird, and you're going to ask me, why do I have this? The reason is that I'm going to give you 5 areas that you can work with your subconscious mind. But remember that there is a lot more out there, and all of those are going to distract you. But if you could use these 5 things and tap into the subconscious mind, then eventually those other items that are a distraction are not going to impact you. So the first one is visualize. You really, really need to visualize where you're at. The second is being connecting with yourself. And then that you do that by meditating. The third is vocalize. And there's different ways of vocalizing. And one of the ones that I really like is journaling. Can you write down what you are thinking? Because you will then catch your prison sentence and you'll catch your positive as well. Because what you want to do is to set your goals. And each time what you're writing is not aligned with your goals, it is an option for you to choose and correct. But above all, and this is the foundation that we need to build, is you. Are you taking care of you? Which means, are you eating well? Are you exercising? Are you doing mindful stuff? Are you educating yourself? When you are at the core focus, everything else falls into place for you, right? And one thing that is really important to remember when we're looking at our subconscious mind, just because it is in the subconscious mind, it does not mean that the past is a predictor of the future. The past is behind you. It does not have to predict your future because you have a choice to change that and to create those new memories and to create those new neural connections so that when you tap into the subconscious mind, you're tapping into what you want. And when you're vocalizing, visualizing, emotionalizing, you actually actualize what you want. And we'll talk about that, of how we get to do that, right? And the problem we run into is that often we tap into our fear in our subconscious mind as opposed to the love. It is easy to go to that because that's your prison sentence that's breaking you. So I invite you to change the definition of fear. And I have 3 definitions here that you're going to pick one that works for you. Fear is a false emotion that appears real.
Yes.
Forget everything and run. Run towards your goal, not run away from the problem. Face everything and rise. It's sort of the opposite of the previous one, right? The law of the subconscious mind works for good and bad ideas. And that's really important to remember. This is Joseph Murphy, who's written one of the most powerful books, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. This law, when applied in a negative way, is the cause of failure and frustration and unhappiness. When your habitual thinking is harmonious and constructive, you experience perfect health, success, and prosperity. Joseph Murphy, actually. There's a Y that's missing. I'll correct that. So always make sure that that's why your prison sentence has to be changed. Because if you're working with the prison sentence, the subconscious mind will make sure that that prison sentence becomes true for you. When you change the prison sentence to a freedom sentence, then that's what you're going to have. That's when you experience health success, prosperity, freedom. And instead of the story today, I had the exercise. So that brings me to the end of our conversation today. Thank you so much. Tomorrow is another exciting day, and we will work on it. I will let you know I may have to reschedule Sunday, but tomorrow I find out if I need to reschedule it. If it does, I will either pre-record it and put it on the group to be able to access it. Otherwise, we will just do it at a later time. Thank you again. It is the weekend. Have an awesome weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.